Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Rant Line Radio, episode 622, coming to you on Monday, September 29th. We're going to talk about the latest in USC football. Look back at USC's heartbreaking, frustrating, maddening, and so many more other words that you can put there. Loss to the Illinois Fighting Illini on the road in Champaign-Urbana over the weekend. We're going to look back at that, open up the mailbag, take your calls. We have like 8 calls that we really want to get to, 8 or 9 calls. It's really good stuff there, and so much more. As always, you can follow us on social media at Rant of Troy. Email us, rantoftroy@fanside.com, and our phone number, 818-643-7227. Oh, you remembered. Yeah. I'm your host, Mike Garcia-Jola, with my co-host here in the Rant Troy studio, Alicia Dertall.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, and officially, rest in peace to the What's Bruin show.
I have a feeling.
No longer with us.
I have a feeling that they'll be back. I have a feeling.
I don't know.
Maybe not this season. Maybe they'll take a year off. But
they said they were ending the show if UCLA happened to open up 0-4.
I have a feeling they'll be back. This is not the last we've seen of the What's Bruin show.
I don't know. Doesn't look good for them. Doesn't look good for them. All right. We're back here. A lot of stuff to get to here on this episode. I think we just get right into it. Let's start with the news, shall we? All right, we've got a new game time for SC's game against Michigan, which is coming up in about 11 days. SC and Michigan locking horns at the Coliseum, 4:30 p.m. on WNBC. 4:30 p.m. It's exactly what everybody wants. It's the primetime slot on NBC. Iron Eagle and Iron Eagle's kid, what's his kid's name?
I'm blanking on the name right now.
And Todd Blackledge.
Yeah, those guys.
Yeah.
I like a 4:30 kickoff. I'm in favor of 4:30 kickoff, so I have nothing to complain about.
Yeah. Noah Eagle, by the way. Noah Eagle.
Yeah. I knew it was something very vowely.
No, I like Noah Eagle, but it really does sound like he's doing an impression of his dad.
Yeah, well.
To the point where I'm like, no, this one is Ian Eagle. And then you get to halftime and oh no, that was Noah. There he is on the screen. Yeah. Love Todd Blackledge. He's great. Mm-hmm. He's great.
I mean, it's definitely not it's not an announcing crew that we need to talk about. It's like, oh dear, here we come.
Yeah, it's not Tim Brando.
And it's not a game time that we have to rave about. Oh no, here we go.
Right.
So yeah. The TV networks don't hate USC, as it turns out.
There you go. Look at that. Can you believe the Big Ten is doing this to SC? Mm-hmm. They're putting SC on TV during prime time. Yeah. So SC, I think, also announced that it's a sellout.
It's a sellout, yeah.
Whatever that they determined to be a sellout.
Well, I mean, it is a sellout, and for good reason, because there's a lot of Michigan fans in the LA area.
I've heard about that.
I'm not surprised at all that it's a sellout, because I would expect it to be. So
I heard that they're big fans of the color blue too. Yeah. Have you heard that part?
No.
Yeah. They must love Chelsea, to be honest. They love the Blues.
Maybe they do love the Blues.
Yeah. All right. Updated polls in the AP poll. SC is unranked. Illinois up 2 spots to number 22 in the AP and the coaches poll. In FPI, SC is down a couple spots to 10th. I would tell you what they are in FEI, but FEI has not been updating until Monday night.
Yeah, I double checked.
It's been kind of frustrating.
I double checked FEI and they weren't up to date. But
yeah, I'm gonna send an email to Brian Fremo and complain. Can you at least do it before our episode on Mondays? That would be great. Because last week, as soon as the episode ended, I went to FEI and it was updated. You're killing me. But yeah, SC still receiving votes in the AP poll. What is it? I saw it earlier. Or do they not have?
Are
there no votes in the AP poll?
I had it up.
No, this is wrong.
Yeah, USC is receiving 22.
Yeah,
has 22
There
points.
Yeah.
In the AP poll, and
I
guess 17 in the coaches.
I said in the CarCast that like people need to stop like putting stock into the polls meaning things like, oh, we just had to lose after we got ranked, or we shouldn't have been ranked, even though everybody wanted SC to be ranked for the last 3 weeks, all this kind of stuff. And I believe that. At the same time, oh my God, I have so many issues with this week's AP poll.
It's an AP poll. Like the AP poll is what they are.
Yes,
it is. They are what
it's
they are.
It's a hot plate, and I'm touching the hot plate.
And they are so predictable. Yeah. Like it's the only thing that's unpredictable about the AP poll is which team they're going to give an absurd boost up into the top 10 for beating a team that was also ranked.
I think Ole Miss is really good. Ole Miss beats LSU. But why do they need to go up 9 spots? They went up 9 spots and basically switched spots with LSU.
My problem with that being, not to cut you off, but my problem with that being that like LSU was ranked as highly as they were because they beat
Clemson
who was ranked number 4 in week 1. Now Clemson has been plummeting all season, and so LSU's stature in the polls was based on a win over a fraudulent team.
Yes.
And then they have looked fraudulent the whole time because their offense is horrific
Clemson is
compared to the talent that LSU has on offense. They are way underperforming. And so anybody with a brain could have seen that they were going to be vulnerable and probably going to lose eventually. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't a surprise when Ole Miss beat them, but then Ole Miss is getting a boost like they beat Ohio State or they beat Oregon, you know?
I'm fine with the Ole Miss getting a boost. People realize that they're 5-0 and they're a really good team. Yeah, I'm with you. But having them go up 9 spots, jumping Indiana, OU, like all these teams that they jumped is crazy. Also, I don't want to go on too much of a soapbox about this, but I watched the Oregon-Penn State game. I do not know how you watch the Oregon-Penn State game and come away with it thinking, you know what, I think Penn State should drop 4 spots.
Well, is anybody honestly going to tell me, and I say this as a Penn State hater, honestly going to tell me that Penn State is a worse team than Ole Miss, Oklahoma, or Texas A&M? I'll give you Miami. As you can argue that Miami deserves to be in front of them. But Ole Miss, Oklahoma, and Texas A&M, no, they're not better than Penn State.
The only reason...
Certainly not based on that game.
Yeah. The only reason Penn State has a loss is because they happen to play a team who is now ranked number 2. And that happened in overtime, which as far as I'm concerned, completely validates that both of those teams are top 5 teams.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. The thing annoys me. I shouldn't touch the hot plate. I know the polls don't matter. Don't care about these things. Don't fall into the trap. And I'm falling, baby. Mm-hmm. So I shouldn't be doing that. But here we are. All right. Alicia, we have scrapped fun stats with Michael this week. A, because I don't know that the stats would be fun. But B, because we've got 1 million calls. And you wanted to go through a detailed... rewatch sort of analysis.
I rewatched the game.
Yeah.
Take it away. I didn't want to. I really didn't want to. I've skimmed through the first 4 games because it didn't feel like we needed deep analysis on what happened in those games. But this one I was like, okay, no, I need to know. I need to know for sure if what I felt on Saturday was real. I need to know if I was overreacting. I need to know if USC's defense just had a few bad moments, but on the whole they were okay, or they had better moments than I thought they had, or USC's offense was just unlucky or something like that. I just needed to know. And I don't need to I wrote out a drive chart just with my notes, and I don't need to go through this drive chart in particular. Putting it together simply verified for me, and rewatching the game simply verified for me that no, it was as bad as we all thought it was. Every conclusion I drew from that game on Saturday in the immediate in the moment and in the aftermath was 100% accurate. The defense was horrific. It was as horrific as you remember. They had literally one stop that counts for anything. And that stop even was aided by a false start that put Illinois on the back foot. Every single drive, and I mean every single drive, they out-physicaled USC. They bullied USC. They dominated USC in every facet of the game. In every single facet. There are no positives to take from this defensive performance. Not a single one. Actually, no, that's not true. There's one single positive to take from this defensive performance, and it's that the true freshman safety, Kendarius Reddick, that got thrown into the nickel spot because of the injuries that USC has experienced in that spot, was USC's best defender. Like, that's how dire it was, guys. That Kendarius Reddick, the true freshman safety that got thrown in the middle of the game because of an injury, was the biggest positive of the day, and it wasn't close. There was a singular moment from Christian Pierce on the long would-be touchdown that he stopped. Eric Gentry punching out the ball at the goal line. Yes, good individual moments. But it was start to finish a disaster of a defensive performance. I don't know how else to say it. Like, I feel like I'm repeating myself because I need you to fully understand that on a play-by-play basis, Illinois was taking USC's lunch money. On a play-by-play basis, not just like they won this drive or they won this set of downs. They won practically every play. They were moving the ball at will. And there were like two exceptions for that outside of the fumbles, which are, what they are. Sometimes you get fumble luck, but also it felt like USC got very lucky with when those happened, considering what Illinois was doing on those drives. But the two drives that USC gets any semblance of a stop, they force a field goal on drive number 4, and that's because DeCarlos Nicholson has that huge sack, which is like the only good play of the game by a DB. And they still give up a field goal because they were hemorrhaging yardage before that. And then the next drive after that, they do force a punt with a quick stop, and it's at least something. But a lot of that has to do with the false start that pushes Illinois back, and then Altmaier misses a pass on third down, and they punt. So those were literally, I can count on one hand the number of good plays that USC got in this game defensively. So, yeah, it's dire. It's dire on defense. They talk about like throw out the tape kind of game. Like, this is a throw out the tape kind of game. USC needs to just throw everything out and start from scratch because they cannot have a performance that is even slightly close to this one. It was bad. And like, I'm always curious what the PFF ratings have to say about it. They say that my eyes were telling me the truth because Braylon Conley, 29.9, DJ Harvey, 38.9, Keyshawn Silver, 39.9, Braylon Shelby, 45.2, Kobe Pepe, 50.1, Cam Crawford, 51.2, Jakeem Stewart, 51.4, Anthony Lucas, 53.8, Devin Tompkins, 55.4, Floyd Boucard, 57.6, Marcellus Williams, 58.6, Jamal Jarrett, 59.4. Most games, USC has like one or two guys in that range of grades, and I just named like a dozen.
Yeah.
It was bad. Offensively, it was typical USC. It was very good except for the critical errors. Drive 1 is a critical error. Drive 2 is a textbook touchdown drive. Drive 3 is a critical error because of the the fourth down inability to finish the play. Drive 4 is the methodical field goal drive before the half. Drive 5 is an interception, critical error. Drive 6 is a 3 and out. Mailbag's shaken, throwing high. Drive 7 is a touchdown. Again, the best of what USC can do. Drive 8 is a touchdown, requiring some fourth down magic from Makai Lemon. And drive 9 is the scored too early touchdown. So USC had plenty of points on the board, but critical error, and that's way more simple to fix, I think. But yeah,
it's been a couple days, right? We've had time to think about this, and I think I've gone in different directions in the sense of like, I think I've gone more extreme on both sides of things in the sense of like, yeah, you watch back everything, you watch back the highlights, you watch back the game, you watch back whatever you watch back. Everything was just so easy to the point that I'm trying to think of another SC performance that was this bad defensively, and the only thing I can come up with is Washington 2023. They scored 53 points. Like, I know that Oregon 2023 is a game that people look back because they scored 2 crazily easy touchdowns in the first half. But, like, for the most part, after those 2 touchdowns, Oregon doesn't have the same ease that Illinois had in this game.
I like this comparison, too, because I think that Washington game was one where sort of psychologically, I think we all understood, and I think Caleb Williams understood that
you had to be perfect.
Because Washington was going to drive every single drive and score.
Mm-hmm.
They were simply going to do that, and I think psychologically, it's funny that I have in my notes here for drive 9, which was the game-winning field goal drive. First play is a 9-yard run. We all knew it was over then.
Yeah, and you look at that Washington game in 2023, SC had to be perfect on offense, and they nearly were.
That's the crazy thing.
They held serve offensively, just about, but didn't. They you don't score on one drive and then you're screwed. And then we talked about it that like Jade Mailbag has 3 drives that end because of his inaccuracy. Right? There's the fourth down in the first half where he throws the feet of a receiver. There's the drive with the interception and a ball that was never there. He shouldn't have thrown it.
It was just a stupid throw. It was literally the worst. He's
You know what it was? It was the thing where we're playing the video game, right?
Yes.
And you tell yourself, okay, I'm only throwing this if it's there. And you look at it, you're like, it ain't there. But your body still presses X.
And then in the middle of pressing the button, you're going, no.
I meant not to press it. I meant not to do it. Yeah. Like it was one of those things.
Exactly what that was.
Yeah. And then the drive after that in which he misses dudes who are wide open. And
that one it feels like he's unsettled. He's throwing too high because he's afraid of throwing another interception. And they do get some pressure there, and it does seem to unsettle him.
But where I want to where I think I veer to the extreme in terms of like the feel good about this game is with Jaden Mailbag in the sense of like he had those 3 drives that ended that way, in part because of his inaccuracy. But everything else he did in that game was fantastic. He had a bunch of really good throws. He did have he threw a hospital ball to Wayman Jordan, and he threw a absurd pass into quadruple coverage that was probably crazy risky and he shouldn't have thrown at all. And it has to be an exact perfect pass, and he did to Makai Lemon. So it's like Sam Darnold's touchdown pass in the Rose Bowl, like probably a dumb pass unless you throw the perfect ball of your life there.
Yeah.
But he did. And so he paid it off, right? And so like Jaden Mailbag did so many good things in this game. He fought back. He had those 3 drives and still put together 3 drives right after that were really, really good. It was kind of like what we saw in the SRS distribution Las Vegas Bowl, where you saw the worst of Jaden Mailbag, and then you saw the worst of him for 50 minutes of that game, and then he was incredible down the stretch, right?
The scary thing is again, it's just like last year where I can legitimately say, despite everything I've said about the defense, despite everything I've said about how catastrophic that performance was, USC was still literally one play away, in my view, of winning this game. They were
they were a missed field goal away from winning the game. Yeah.
Well, yes, but more accurately to me, it's either Jaden Mayava doesn't throw that interception, because if he doesn't, I'm pretty confident that he goes down in USC scores, continues to drive in USC scores,
right.
Or Wayman Jordan doesn't fumble the ball away and USC scores on that first drive. Either way, those are literally the two plays that change the game. Now, if I'm an Illinois fan, I can literally turn around, and if we flip the result and USC wins, Illinois is literally sitting there going either of the goal line fumbles, and we win this game.
In a lot of ways, both teams turn the ball over in plus territory, right?
Yeah.
The Illinois are
because both
worse because they're at the goal line, but both of those were probably going to be touchdown drives.
Both defenses found it very, very difficult to keep the opposing offense out of plus territory.
Yes. Absolutely. And that way, you got to be perfect. And SC wasn't perfect on offense. And this is where I think you can't expect on either side of the ball to be perfect, right? If this was the complete other situation where this is like an Iowa game and SC loses this game, let's say 9-7, because Illinois gets 3 field goals and they hit one at the very end, it would be the same thing of your defense was perfect. But you shouldn't expect them to be, you know what I mean? You hold a team to 9 points, you should still win the game.
Yeah.
Get something on offense, right? And it's the same thing, but obviously, way different in SC's case. And I think in terms of moving forward, I think it's terrifying looking back at that defensive performance, just because it is so bad, and it's also it feels out of character. We're gonna get to there's a lot of stuff I want to get to when we listen to the calls, because I think they bring up some interesting points. But one of them for me is I don't know how SC got in this situation defensively. And I know that the easy rebuttal, well, it's Lincoln Riley, it's a Lincoln Riley team. And it's yes, I hear you. Yes. And I think that what we learned is, until proven otherwise at this point right now, is that the Danton Lynn defense should be looked at akin to the Alex Grinch defense and the Ruffin McNeil defense before that, right? I think you need to look at those things very similarly, right? But the defense wasn't this way last year. And I think it's too easy to say it's because Kamari Ramsey isn't at safety and that he's at nickel. I think it's too easy to say that it's just injuries. Because there was nothing here. Also, they weren't this way the first 4 games. The issues that they had in this game, the closest thing that we talked about in the CarCast that was to the breakdowns that they had in this game earlier this season were those 3 drives that Purdue had where they moved the ball really well. But those were isolated, right? Mm-hmm. Where how could it be this bad? I don't get it. And I know we're gonna get to some calls about transfer portal stuff and
really, okay, so we have to operate with the understanding that USC's roster is what it is. You're not getting any help from the transfer portal today.
Yeah.
Yes, you might get a little bit of help from injured guys getting back, and that is certain. Not just a little bit of help, a lot of help from injured guys getting back. So that is something to maybe. That's the only way you bolster what the current roster is. But right now you can't change your roster. You have to work with what you have. And I think that the hope from a USC perspective has to be that the team as a whole, certainly the defense, was impacted by the road 9 a.m. situation, that they were impacted by not just Kamari Ramsey being out, but him being out unexpectedly the morning of. Because, Elijah Page and Jacoby Lane, well, Jacoby played, but Elijah Page, we knew that was going to be an issue, and USC spent the week running an offensive line in practice that was what it was. And then the offensive line has Killian O'Connor go down injured, and they have to sub in Jean-Ray Reed, and it clearly impacts the level of the offensive line. Yeah. The offensive line was worse after Killian O'Connor left, in part because when you shuffle up the lineup, it does get upset. And maybe we give the defense a little bit of grace in that they were already facing some upset scheduling in terms of the 9 a.m. and the road, and then unexpectedly you took a nickel out of the situation, and then on top of that you had the backup nickel Longstreet go out injured as well. So now you were on to your third string nickel, who was already your sixth string nickel, and all the DBs, everybody in the secondary, all of the trust levels that you expect to have in a 5 are completely sort of upended. Whether the replacements did well or not, and I do think Kendarius Reddick did well, now you have somebody like Bishop Fitzgerald or Christian Pierce or whichever corner is on that side with the nickel. You have them perhaps having in their head, oh, wait, I've got this kid over here. I've got to make sure that he's doing what he needs to do, and sort of splitting their minds in a certain way, and in a way that just makes it difficult to be successful. I mean, if that is the explanation, and it doesn't explain the defensive front, but I don't know. We know Kamari Ramsey had food poisoning. Maybe somebody else did. Maybe others were sick. I don't know. Maybe there was just something in the air. Sometimes that just happens. And I mean, Illinois can tell you that from last week. Maybe they get to say that there was just something in the air. And Illinois was able, from a horrific performance last week, to turn around for their next game and put in a good enough performance to beat USC. So, this doesn't have to be the end-all, be-all of, this doesn't have to be what USC is for the rest of the season. It just doesn't bode super well, but that doesn't mean that USC can't correct this, can't feel better, be in better circumstances, that USC can't get some guys back and have that be the difference, whether it's Kamari Ramsey or Alex Graham, the nickel that should be the second string nickel, or Prophet Brown, who was the starting nickel. There's potentially fixes in personnel terms, in the ways that a coaching staff can start to recognize what their team's flaws are, and then game plan around those things a little bit better than they did in this game. I don't know if maybe Danton Lynn will get a look at this film and maybe, change up what he does with his front, because the light box that USC runs with this sort of 4-2-5, where it's 2 down linemen and 2 stand-up edges, they're getting eaten alive. Maybe he needs to rethink what combination of players he has in there, whether or not he has a 5th lineman in there. What is the best way for this assortment of players to play together? These things can be fixed to a certain extent, or at least mitigated, because this wasn't just a bad performance. This was, like I said, a horrifically bad performance. That's the kind of performance that's so bad that it should force you to rethink everything that you do and everything that you thought you knew about your team. So, perhaps with a bye week ahead, reality check.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I think you got to throw away the tape because it's just so crazy horrific, and you hope this is the wake-up call. You hope that you can get healthy guys back in there and all that kind of stuff. But it's tough because You have to get better quickly. If you perform as you did, even against Purdue, where you give up 3 drives in which you look like a sieve.
But you tighten up eventually.
But you tighten up, and you create turnovers, and you create negative plays. I think that's reasonable expectation for what this defense should be. They don't need to be perfect. This doesn't need to be the 2008 USC defense. But if you're a 20-point defense that creates negative plays and turnovers, SC's going to win a lot of games.
Optimistic Alicia comes in here and says that this was one of the most horrific defensive performances I've ever seen from USC, and they still almost won the game.
Well, they still almost won the game. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. All right. We got lots to get to. Let's start with the old Roto meter, shall we? All right. When last we spoke, Alicia, the Roto meter was at a cool 6.06 after the Michigan State game. It dropped from 6.70 after Purdue. It went from 6.5 after Missouri State, 6.97 after Georgia Southern, 6.70 after Purdue, all the way down to 6.06 after Michigan State. Alicia, drum roll, please. It's 3.42 after Illinois. 3.42.
I'm not the least bit surprised by that. I sort of figured we'd get some ones thrown in on the Roto meter that would help bring that meter down.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go that low.
Sure.
Because I do still think that USC's offense is formidable, and we are seeing some really good things from the quarterback position, the running backs, the tight ends I would argue this was the best tight end game for USC in over a decade.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a lot of things to be positive about, particularly on the offensive side. Yeah, the offensive line's still a bit shaky, but the injuries, unfortunately, make me sort of judge that on a different scale, and my scale is still judging at it's okay. And yeah, the defense is terrible, but I'm not going to drop it down below. I would probably go 5 myself.
I'm probably at a 4.5.
Yeah.
4.5. I think I would be better. I think if this was a game in which it was like the Purdue game in terms of the defensive performance, where there were bad stretches, but there were plenty of good stretches too, and they lost the game by a field goal, I think that it might still be over 5. Because then maybe you could say that it was the 9 a.m. stuff and all that kind of things. But it was so bad that you can't even hypothesize that was the case, right? So let's read what some of you guys said. The Rotbots, 1, completely demoralized, don't even want to watch another game out of fear it all happens again. But Jaden throws a pretty touch pass, so I guess just 1. Someone said disappointed and just put 5. Riley hasn't changed his approach when coaching. He's up against an even marginal talent. He will be completely out of his depth versus teams vying for the CFP positions. 3. Somebody says 2. This is from Chappie. 2. Truthfully, I was ready to use my sponge if USC won today. Instead, that was a 2 out of 10 performance. Definitely not sponge worthy. This was the worst defensive showing I've ever seen. Even worse than the Alex Grinch days. The players didn't look confused or lost. They looked flat out horrible. As for the recent influx of feedback about Alicia, I think those listeners were wrong. I've been with this pod for years, and she's a diehard. If I wanted sugar-coated Homer takes, I just watched the Peristyle or other USC content financed and paid for by USC. That's not what this podcast is, and I appreciate that Alicia has been skeptical about the defense all year. You'd be blind not to be. Also, it's just her personality. Pessimistic Alicia, which is great. But you two keep being yourselves and forget the haters. Everyone loves to give feedback, but doesn't want to put the insane time and effort it takes to produce something like this. With love, Chappie. I mean, thanks for using the Rotometer as a feedback box. We appreciate that. But Chappie says 2. Chappie puts the Rotometer at 2. Someone says 3. Lincoln era increasingly feels like a total failure. Someone says 2, lack of physicality and discipline on defense is truly stunning. Somebody said 0, still looks like a Lincoln Riley coach team. My 3 rating from before is now a 0. Somebody said 6 with no explanation there. There's a bunch more to get to. If we didn't get to yours, I'm sorry, but yeah, you guys all factored in the vote for 3.42. Yeah.
I mean, what can you say?
I actually think this is... Wait, sorry. Pessimistic Rotbots out in full force.
Yes, pessimistic out. Well, I was going to say, I actually think this is a case of optimistic Chappie. No,
I mean, it was a 2.
No, he did do it too.
Yeah.
They did do it too. So yeah, that's fair. Yeah, pessimistic.
Yeah.
I was mulling over it. Last night. Sunday night, I was feeling a little bit down, which is not new. But especially like after I was in that like post loss like hangover of just like,
sure,
when will USC be not this? Mm-hmm. And I was tweeting about just how like I just want to see elite defense. Like I grew up in elite defenses. I remember USC flying around and being formidable, and it's just like it's so frustrating that the past 10 years have been so lacking in that. I looked it up. USC has had a top 25 scoring defense once since Pete Carroll left. And that was 2013 with Clemson.
2013, a year in which they gave up 62 points to Arizona State.
Yes.
A lot of pick sixes and
that was a weird game.
But yes.
Yeah. So, it was a weird, I was in a weird place. And then today I was sort of thinking about being in that weird place. And I was like, do I need to change like optimistic Alicia and pessimistic Alicia to like depressed Alicia and manic Alicia? Because like I feel like I'm not hovering between optimism and pessimism. I'm hovering between like depression and mania.
It's mind-numbing how the defense could have a performance like that against Illinois. Let's get to over-under.
So you're going over. I'm going bold. Give me that over. I got to take an under here. I got 3 unders to take. I'm going to do an under here.
All right, we're going to run down this quickly here. The line was 4.5 USC sacks. The answer, under. It was under at 1.
Yeah.
1 sack. 1 sack. Oh my God, it was
one sack.
Goddamn sack. Yeah, 1.
And
sack.
not like 1 sack and a bunch of hurries.
No. Like we said before, like in the CarCast, like it wasn't necessarily the lack of tackles for loss and the lack of sacks that was the issue to me. It was the lack of any semblance of pressure. Like it would have been one thing if there was pressure, but like you never got home, but Altmaier was off schedule and off kilter and that kind of stuff. But like that wasn't the case, right? No. Micaiah Lemon over under 7.5 catches. It was over. It was 11 catches. 151 yards, banner day for Micaiah Lemon. 15 targets. No other Trojan had more than 5.
He's kind of good.
That was like McCree. He's kind of good, yeah. Over under 1.5 Illinois passes of 30-plus yards. I was thinking that this was under after the game. It was over. There were 2.
Yes, because the touchdown, the long touchdown down the right side, that's a pass.
Yes.
It's a little screen. Mm-hmm. And then the Braylon Conley missed tackle, Christian Pierce touchdown saving tackle was also the long one. Yeah.
So it was 2 there. Wait a minute. Hold on. Did I miss another one? No, it was 3. Sorry. It was 3. There was a 32-yarder as well. But yeah, those are ones that were preventable, absolutely preventable. They were not the same type of breakdowns that SC had against Michigan State. This was a completely different type of big game that they gave up. 4.05, over under 4.05, Illinois sack-adjusted rushing average. It was over. It was well over 5.3. That was something they had struggled with against Indiana and Duke.
And 5.3 is flattering USC's run defense.
Yeah, 5.3 doesn't sound that bad.
It was worse
based on how the performance was. Yeah. Here's a good one. Over under 8.5 USC penalties. At least it sure felt like an over. It was under.
We've done a lot of over-unders. We've done a lot of over-unders with surprising results. This is the single most surprising over-under result I can ever remember. Because there is no way in hell that USC was under. There's no way. It's like we're all having like collective amnesia with the stat book that like what happened to the other like 10 penalties that I remember being thrown.
Well, it does help that I think there were at least two
on the same play
that were declined, and declined penalties do not count in the stat book. So take that for what it's worth. But
on
yeah,
penalties,
it's an under.
On penalties, though, I will reiterate that flag for an illegal man downfield is bullshit. I know it's technically a penalty. But watching it again, I was just like, this is an absurd penalty to throw. Absurd penalty to throw.
It would be something if he was around anybody else. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I 1,000% get it because he's technically downfield. Yeah, and absolutely. But there's nobody there, and he's like a yard and a half over.
And you know what's especially annoying? That, like, it's clear he doesn't know where he is on the field. Mm-hmm. And having watched most of the game after John Reed comes in the game, he was getting pushed back on most plays. But on this particular play, he happened to push his man forward. And then once they disengaged, like, if he assumed that he was still at the line of scrimmage, I would think that, like, that would have been a safe assumption for him based on what most plays looked like. Yeah. At the point of attack. So yeah.
All right. Last one was over under 40.5 Illinois third down conversion rate. Ooh, this was an over and over by plenty. 60% Illinois was at 6 of 10. Not good. Really, real bad there. Again, if they were to give up a lot of yards, but been decent on third down, they would have gotten some stops, but that wasn't the case either. They weren't good defensively in literally anything. For the week, you went 1-5. Oof. Not good.
I don't want to talk about it.
I was all right. 4-2. 4-2 this week. For the week, Jay Vandy, a perfect 6-0, the only person of the Rotbots that went a perfect 6-0. Big ups to Jay Vandy. 12-6 is the top record for all of the Rotbots this year. 4 people have that record. Jay Vandy, who just went 6-0, is 12-6. Steven Schad, 12-6. Vincent SD, 12-6. Those 3 guys always up there in the front, like last few years. What is in the water with those?
They're good at the game.
They're always good.
Am not good at the game.
Yeah, they're always good. But there's one other person at 12-6, and that would be me.
Congratulations.
Big ups to me. Vegas spread, of course, was SC at on a 6.5. FEI projection was SC 35-28 with a 62.5 win probability. Your score projection, 32-30 SC. You had the 32. And if that field goal misses, it's 31. It's 32-31. You would have been a point off.
If that field goal misses, or if USC runs out the clock.
Yeah. You're right there.
It's right there.
You're right there. Yeah. My score prediction was 34-20. I was close on SC's side, but way off on Illinois' side because I definitely didn't expect a defensive performance that was that bad. But alas, it was. The SP Plus, Bill Connolly's numbers, they have the adjusted scoring margin. I went over there to look at that because I was very curious if this was a thing where, like, you look at it, you're like, oh, well, SC should have been murdered by Illinois because of the fumbles at the goal line kind of thing. We talked about, like, they're lucky to not have given up 50 points and all that kind of stuff. The adjusted scoring margin is 4.5 points in favor of Illinois.
Yeah, so because of those fumbles.
I think it's because of SC's turnovers. That's the only reason why it's not more, is because SC's turnovers are in positive territory, just like Illinois'.
Gotcha.
Illinois were just further more that, like, I think it's easier to look back at this and say, oh, Illinois really left those points on the board. But, like,
Both
so did
teams
SC.
Yeah.
So did SC. But SC turned the ball over at the 30 and not the 3. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. But either way, they were both teams were turning it over on scoring drives, what should have been scoring drives. Absolutely. Let's get to the mailbag. Shall we get to the mailbag?
You've got mail.
All right. We have 1 million calls. So we're going to run through these and give you our response after each one of them. We might be a little bit short on the response just because we have like 9 calls. So let's go to a Rat Pod who called in from Detroit.
Listen, fellas, I think that Wayman Jordan and Mekhi Lemon are everything that this USC offense needs. Mekhi Lemon is no doubt a first-round pick in the NFL draft. But let me tell you something. The USC defense is ridiculously bad, and this falls simply on Lincoln Riley. And I am so sick and tired of seeing Lincoln Riley, whether it was in Oklahoma or whether it was in USC, he has horribly failed at picking up defensive players and finding defensive stars. This was a lack of depth on this team, a lack of depth on this defense, and Lincoln Riley needs to have his ass on the hot seat because I am so sick and tired of people giving this guy a pass when he absolutely refuses to go out and pick up defensive players that are going to make a difference for this football team. The fact of the matter is that Lincoln Riley has failed these defensive players and failed this defensive coordinator. I am so sick of people just giving him a pass because he refuses to go out and pick up defensive players and corners in particular. The defensive backs on this team need work, and Lincoln Riley needs to figure it out or he needs to be gone. This should have been a win, and USC failed to pull it off because they were letting Illinois do whatever the hell they wanted. This was absolutely ridiculous because I'm tired of it. And by the way, this is Scott from Detroit. Just saying.
I love that we get the Scott from Detroit at the very end.
It's the way he's just like gaining steam with the rant, and then he's like, oh yeah, I remember I gotta like identify myself.
Have you ever seen the clip of the Michigan women's basketball coach who's upset?
I don't think so.
About it's my favorite press conference tirade, but he like is so mad that like his face can't handle it, and he's just like his glasses are like falling off of his face, and like we just can't get a blackout, and like that's how I feel like Scott from Detroit was doing that with that. Great call, and yeah, Lincoln Riley's got to be better. Yes, Danton Lynn gets a lot of the criticism here, and as he should, but it all still points back to Lincoln Riley. He is the CEO of the program, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's go to another call from Cam, which is very similar. Also mentions the transfer portal. We'll talk about the transfer portal stuff after Cam talks as well. Here's Cam.
Hi, Rainer Troy. It's Cameron from Frisco, Texas. Been about a couple of days since the epic fail that USC had against Illinois. I was at the USC watch party for the USC alumni in Dallas. While we were having the discussion about the car cast, saying that the whole Clock Mansion situation, that wasn't the issue, that you still need to score regardless. If you were at that watch party, you would have seen every single USC fan not cheer for that touchdown after we got that pass touchdown post into the end zone by Mekhi Lemon with a minute 55 left. No one cheered because we knew, yes, we took the lead by 1 point, but we all knew what this defense had done all day. They hadn't been able to stop nobody. They weren't even able to stop them the whole game except rushed into 2 fumbles by Eric Gentry. Thank you to him. Now we knew, we're going to lose. Because why? The defense is going to blow it. Because we've seen this time and time again. 2022 against Utah, 2022 against Tulane, all of the 2023 season where the defense couldn't stop nobody on the out scrinch and gave up 40, 50-plus points. And then in 2024, the defense always finding a way to lose the game like Maryland. So we've seen this game happen before. We've seen this script happen. And yet Lincoln Riley does not know, once again, how to manage the clock. If you watch that Penn State-Oregon game, right before Penn State scored that touchdown before they went to tie the game before they went to overtime, you see them milking the clock. You see an overrated James Franklin understand his personnel, understand their situation, that you need to milk the clock so that you not just get the touchdown to score, but then you're forcing that other side of the ball, the offense, to try to march down the field with such little time possible that they can't even score. So I hate this whole thing saying the problem isn't the clock management. Yes, it is. It is the clock management. Because when USC fans aren't even cheering for touchdowns to take leads, so the buck stops with Lincoln Riley. The buck stops with him.
Thanks for the call, Cam. I'm going to play call from the 747 area code really quick, just because there's similar things, and then we'll get to everything right after that.
16-yard line with 1:55 left, and we throw it in the end zone. Unbelievable catch. But that is some of the dumbest clock management I have ever seen from Lincoln Riley. Frankly, any coach ever. Abhorrent. Appalling. He needs to speak up for that. Great fight. Fight on.
Thanks for the call. Okay, a lot of stuff to get to here. Number one, clock management stuff. By the way, we got a lot of comments on YouTube. Everybody sides with you. Nobody likes me. That's fair. That's fine. Well, I didn't have a good CarCast performance, so that's on me.
No. You had a fine CarCast performance.
No, it was bad.
There's a difference. I think this is what people struggle with. It is like the go for two when you're down 14 in the fourth quarter.
I wanted to bring that up too, though.
But it's the analytics people who will say you should just punt, you should just go for every fourth down or whatever. You can have a difference of philosophy, you can have a difference of opinion. Some coaches or some fans want to see two tight end sets in the I formation, and some teams and some coaches and some fans want to see a spread offense with your stacked wide receivers out at the sideline. There are philosophical and stylistic differences, and I think that what I want to encourage people to think about is that we are talking about two valid perspectives, both valid if you take results out of it. It is valid to say that the thing that matters the most is scoring the touchdown. It is valid if that is what you think. It is also valid if you think scoring the touchdown doesn't matter if you don't also bleed the clock. You can have, this is simply a disagreement philosophically. Neither side is wrong or right.
Yeah.
They are just coming at it from a different perspective. And in this particular case, it didn't work out for USC because Lincoln Riley had the philosophy of the side that said you have to score. It doesn't really matter. It's more important to score than anything else. Don't take a touchdown for granted. Don't assume that you're going to finish this thing out with a touchdown. If you have an opportunity to score, you must score. Now, I have one more thing to say before you come in.
Yeah.
Which is my hot take on this, and I'm not trying to let Lincoln Riley off the hook.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody had to throw the pass, and somebody had to make the decision to throw a pass into the end zone to a covered Mekhi Lemon. Yes, it's one-on-one, and yes, you trust Mekhi Lemon to win that matchup, but let's say he doesn't win that matchup. Let's say that pass falls incomplete.
Mm-hmm.
If you are Jaden Mayava, you have just as much responsibility to understand the circumstances, to understand the context. Yeah. You have Jacoby Lane on an underneath route, underneath that you can just pop to him for 5 yards, and then move on to your next down, keep the clock running. But the choice that Mayava makes to throw that pass in the first place, it's either going to result in a touchdown that stops the clock, or it's going to result in not a touchdown that stops the clock, which would be worse.
Or a pick, yeah.
Or a pick, yes. Yeah. So, to me, yes, Lincoln Riley, I think, should have called a run there. But the play that he ran does not mean that USC had to stop the clock. There were options elsewhere on the field that Mayava could have thrown to that could have kept the clock running and could have kept the drive going. Yeah. So, it's not just on Lincoln Riley. It is on Jaden Mayava for also not understanding the context.
I do wonder, just because you said it was Jacoby Lane that was underneath, just because he's there also doesn't mean that he's a read in the progression, though.
No.
Like, it very well could have been, we're running the ball here unless you get one-on-one and then you're taking the... And that's something that we're never going to know. We're never going to hear that discussion. But I think that the point that I wanted to go back to is, like, in terms of the CardCast, I want to make it clear, I agree 1,000,000,000% about slowing it down. I just played in a MAC championship. I go Zips. I won the MAC championship as Akron. I beat our good friend Nick Shook, who was Kent State. Wild win. I'm so excited about it. But it was a tie game. I had the ball with a minute to go, and I could have ran like a 50-yard touchdown run. And I went down at the 4-yard line right before. And then I ended up settling for a field goal, and then I was terrified that I was going to give up a touchdown on the last drive, and I hung on. But the point is, like, I'm the person who also goes down there. So, like, I agree that I think that, you know, they should have slowed down. I think my biggest thing is just from the angle of, like, you still have to score, and I would rather they score than die trying. But I do think there's a philosophical debate there for sure. The other thing, though, I want to get to before we talk about transfer portal stuff is you mentioned the 14-point thing, going for 2 when you're down 14. I think it's very fascinating that Lincoln Riley did do the analytical thing and went for 2, and SC almost won the game because of that. Mm-hmm. That was a very forward-thinking, analytical thing to go for 2 down 14. You get the 2-point conversion. Now you're only down 6. You just need a PAT to win the game. SC did that, was in the position to win that way. Penn State, very similar situation, down 14. They did not do that. And so, yes, James Franklin runs the ball in the final minute to, you know, milk some more off the clock. But if they had gone for 2 on that first drive, they're in position to win the game. So, like, it's very fascinating how, like, every single coach, like, picks and chooses where they want to, like, make their decisions, right? Like, there's like no coach that makes the correct decision on everything, and that's in part because so much of the talk is completely based on results. And, like, that's sort of my frustration more than anything. It's like the Pete Carroll, like, not handing off to Marshawn Lynch thing. I don't think not handing off to Marshawn Lynch at the goal line was the crime that people are talking about. Mm-hmm. It's the interception. Like, yeah, that's a touchdown pass. Nobody's ever mentioning, you know, they really should have ran the ball there and not score. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the intercept. You're mad at the interception.
It's all results.
Yeah, it's all results based. But let's talk about the transfer portal because I think Cam mentioned that, you know, no corners, and then Scott from Detroit mentioned the lack of defensive players, like, you know, that Lincoln Riley's brought in from the transfer portal and whatnot. What are your thoughts there? Because I think the frustrating part is Lincoln Riley has done the right thing defensively the last 2 years. He went out and got a bunch of defensive transfer guys at certain spots that you wanted to see him go. Like, get the lineman, get the defensive lineman. He went out and got a bunch of those. He went out and put a defensive coaching staff together that is really damn good. You have, you know, a Super Bowl winner at linebacker, at defensive line. You've got a guy like Ryan who has 1 million, you know, years of experience at linebackers. You have Belk, who was, you know, much ballyhooed as a secondary coach. Like, you have all these guys who have all been objectively considered good position coaches, and he's gone out and, like, done seemingly the things that you're supposed to do, prioritizing the defensive line. He went out and got DJ Harvey, who was supposed to be a really good corner. Went out and got Jason Johnson. Jason Johnson's hurt, and DJ Harvey has been not good at all so far this year. So, like, I think this goes back to the results thing of, like, Lincoln Riley's trying, and even when he makes the correct decision, it's just still not panning out for him, and that's incredibly frustrating.
Well, that's I get the
which maybe the read is like he just got the wrong guys anyways. Absolutely.
Well, that's the thing is, like, I get the annoyance with they didn't bring in transfers, but, like, they did. There are 9 transfers on this defense. I guess it's 8 transfers on this defense. And DeCarlos Nicholson might as well be a transfer because he was an unexpected eligibility play. So USC went out and got the Akili Arnold replacement in Bishop Fitzgerald, and then they got some insurance with Kennedy Urlacher. They got DJ Harvey and Chasen Johnson, who in another universe are USC starting corners right now. And they got Kevin Longstreet, another DB. So, they brought in a bunch of DBs. They just got them injured. Some of them got injured and some of them have woefully underperformed. And some of them are, I think we've talked about Kennedy Urlacher and Kevin Longstreet as like for the future kind of people. The other problem is like on the defensive line, they brought in Keyshawn Silver and Jamal Jarrett, though they were supposed to be really impactful players for USC from the transfer portal. And neither of them won a starting job coming out of this season. And both of them, Keyshawn Silver more directly, have been extremely disappointing in terms of the level of play that they're bringing to the table for USC. So again, there are a bunch of transfers that USC has brought in. They've just been duds of transfers. Same thing on the other side with John Reed. He was a dud of a transfer, not being able to win the starting job, and now he has it, but he was pretty bad when he came in, so, USC's going to have to work with him and get him up to a better level, but, he was supposed to be a plug-and-play starter, and he was far from it. Zacharias Williams also comes in as a transfer at wide receiver. He's injured. So, this transfer class that USC brought in, Wayman Jordan, Eli Sanders, of course, are the star pupils here, but the issue isn't that USC didn't bring in transfers. It's that either they brought in the wrong transfers or just completely whiffed in their evaluations and thought they were getting guys that it turns out that they weren't getting. The exception to this argument that I will give is that I do think it was a massive mistake and a massive oversight to not find a true Mason Cobb or Easton Mascarenas Arnold replacement in terms of a linebacker, because the evaluation that Desmond Stevens was ready to be a full-time middle linebacker seems to not be.
I think the other side of it,
you're muted, Michael.
Yeah, I think the other side of it too is from Media Day, Lincoln Riley talked about not relying on the portal too much because in 2023 it failed him, right? And I think the other part about it is to me it's more about not developing and recruiting defensively better rather than transfer portal stuff. Because if you had more guys that they've been able to develop and recruit homegrown, I think that would help too. The other side of it too is you look at this game and I don't know what better players even do here, because the secondary was never in the right position anyways. The zone coverages, nobody was in a position to even make a play.
That's my problem with all of this is people are saying USC does it. It's that you explain the defensive performance by USC lacking talent. That is simply not true. Now, does USC have the talent of a Georgia or an Oregon or an Ohio State or any of those teams, that level of team? No, absolutely not. USC does not have that talent. But USC has the talent certainly has way more talent than the likes of Illinois. If you're talking just raw sort of base potential, USC has way more talent than Illinois. They have way more talent than Maryland or Minnesota or Wisconsin or any of these teams. This team is plenty talented. What we're seeing in the secondary is bad play from players who should be playing at a higher level than they are.
Yeah.
DJ Harvey should be playing at a higher level than he is. Marcellus Williams should be playing at a higher level than he is. Braylon Conley. These are sort of diamond in the rough 3-stars or 4-star players that USC has brought in. That's a problem. Or USC has let guys go that they're now regretting letting go, but that's still a USC problem. I don't know. I don't see a lack of talent on this defensive roster. There are one or two holes. It's not like Desmond Stevens, it's not like he's lacking talent. He's just not developed to a point where he's ready to be the middle linebacker of a good USC team.
Yeah.
He got plenty of potential.
No, I agree. There's teams with less talent doing more.
Significantly more.
Yeah, absolutely. On defense. Yeah. Let's go to voicemail from Samuel.
This is Samuel in North Carolina. Message for the Rant Line here. What the hell was that first half? Do we not have any safeties? Do we not have a cornerback? What's our budget for them? $1? Like, come on. Somebody pay some money. Jeez. Illinois. Danton Lynn, you need to do better. You need to do better. It's your second year. You should have gone to get some cornerbacks. Use the portal, for Pete's sake. Anything but what we have now. I understand we had injuries, et cetera, but my gosh, do better.
Thanks for the call, Samuel. Yeah, this was the call that I thought I played earlier, by the way. Talking about the transfer portal and DBs. Yeah, SC's got to be better. They got to get better at DB, and they need more production from the corners that they've gotten. Yes, obviously Jason Johnson's hurt, out for the season, but DJ Harvey was second team All Mountain West last year, but like very good in PFF and all that kind of stuff.
In PFF, yeah.
I feel like a corner should translate to
that's
to
the crazy
level.
thing.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I feel like a corner should be able to translate. All right, let's go to a call we got from Daniel.
Yeah, this is Daniel in Phoenix. It just seems like teams are running down our face. What can Michigan do? Is Michigan going to put up 800 yards just straight down the middle? Also, what are your guys' thoughts on throwing a shot? I think it was 1st and 10 at the 20-yard line, 2 minutes left. We had 3 timeouts. They had 3 timeouts. And basically we just scored immediately. Is that bad game management? Is that you score every time you can score? It just seems like bad game management. It seems like a gimme. I mean, we hadn't stopped them all day. Of course, they're going to get a field goal with 1:50 left, 3 timeouts. I'm furious. I want to win national championships. I feel like we're not close to winning national championships. Oh, my God. Somebody help me. And, by the way, a few years ago, thanks for shouting out my Labrador Retriever, Mocha Bear, who's a Trojan dog, who passed away. She'd be furious right now as well. But
thanks for the call, Daniel. We love Mocha Bear.
That call took me on such a journey.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. But
I just want to say, like, one thing I want to focus on from Daniel's call is like the thing that I get. I think it's easy to be mad at the clock management, and we've already discussed the philosophical difference between the two options that were in play.
Yeah.
And a question of whether or not they were an option at all. But to me, the thing that people should be angry about is the way that USC got pushed around up front. Yeah. Like, USC is not close to a national championship, not even near to close to a national championship. And that is why, not the clock management, it's the getting absolutely bodied up front by Illinois. Not Michigan or not Notre Dame that have truly elite defensive lines. Illinois. Sorry, offensive lines, whatever.
There's talk in the chat about, Illinois' offensive line was senior laden and all this stuff. I hear you. At the end of the day, though, like, you look at the numbers about this offensive line, and they were 61st in line yards, 131st in sacks allowed per game, 127th in tackles for loss per game, and SC was in the top 5 in all those things. Like, 15th in line yards, but first in sacks per game and 4th in FBS in terms of tackles for loss per game coming in. So, like, this wasn't a place where SC still had an advantage, despite them, having some seniors on the offensive line.
Now, what I will say is this idea that, like, based on what Indiana did to Illinois, like Damon in the chat says Illinois lost by 50 points last week, 50 points. Yes, that is a factor, but, like, if you want to grasp at any semblance of optimism, Illinois lost by 50 points last week. And then they did that offensively to USC. Yeah. So USC needs to be in the business of making Michigan fans be on Reign of Wolverine in 2 weeks saying USC lost to Illinois last week.
Yeah, 100%. Let's get a call from Michael.
Hey guys, this is Michael in Dubuque. At least we fought back. last year that wouldn't have happened. But obviously the defense needs a lot of work. So it should be an interesting year. That's all I got. Hope you guys are having a good one. Bye-bye.
Thanks for the call, Michael, as always. Yeah, interesting year. It's always an interesting year, and you'd hope it'd be an interesting year for other reasons. Absolutely.
Yes, just the defeated sound of all of our voices.
Yeah. Let's go to Dave in Orange County.
Radio Troy Radio. What's up? This is Dave from Orange County. Brutal, heartbreaking loss. Seems like we did enough good things and lucky things to get us back in the game, and just ultimately left too much time on the clock. Defense was just getting gashed all day long. Defense looks so shallow, so just susceptible to the run, susceptible to the pass. Yeah, Kamara Rant was not in there, and we just look pedestrian. It requires our offense to just be perfect, and Mailbag was just not clean today. He's inaccurate with passes, throwing to people's feet, throwing over people's heads, getting our tight ends obliterated time and time again. Valiant effort to get back in the game. Gentry with the big punch out, marching down the field, scoring a touchdown. But when you see that there's a little less than 2 minutes left on the clock, that's too much time left on that clock. Heartbreaking loss. Would have liked to have that on the road, but lots of stuff to get healthy and to clean up over the bye week. Yeah, tough loss. Rot meter, where are we at now? You see how shallow and lack of depth we have. Oh yeah, we're about a good 6.1. So, but we're Trojans and we live to fight on another day. So we'll do that and let's turn this boat around. All right, fight out.
Thanks for the call, as always, Dave. We love hearing you. Any thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree with Dave in general. I think he always comes very thoughtfully at approaching what happened in the game, and I think my personal opinion is that Mailbag was cleaner than it feels like he was. He had really just 2 drives in the game where he looked a little bit off. Otherwise, he was floating passes into really tight spaces and showing real arm talent, and generally good decision making. Mm-hmm. And I know that he was, I think he was making it a little bit difficult for the tight ends, but a lot of times those seam balls, you have to put them high. This is why tight ends are such a valuable position in the modern game, because you need them to have the vertical to go up and make those tough catches and to be that sort of that size mismatch in the middle there. And I think that what we saw from USC's tight ends in this game was sort of the fulfillment of what you want to see from pass catching tight ends. So I wouldn't
be surprised if there was a coaching thing there where they've preached throwing high, overthrow your guy higher rather than lower kind of issue of give your guy a chance to go up. Well, obviously you run into the issue of overthrowing your dudes or creating some sort of a tip drill situation or whatever. But when you look at, sometimes he's had the issue of throwing too low. And so maybe throwing higher is a way of trying to overcorrect that. I don't know.
Yeah, I also think just, sometimes guys throw too high and too low.
Not everyone's going to be completely accurate all the time.
I think being accurate is very difficult, and sometimes you will be inaccurate as a quarterback. And I think that this year Mailbag has been more accurate than inaccurate for the most part.
Yeah.
But again, this is the problem when your defense puts you in a position where your offense has to be perfect, because 9 times out of 10, Mailbag's performance on the whole in this game more than enough to win for the vast majority of teams.
Oh, yeah.
But because of the way that the defense played, he made one bad mistake, and that was the game.
And again, when your offense moves the ball effortlessly and win, you talk about Illinois winning, 90% of the plays on offense for them. SC did the same exact thing.
Yes.
It did the same exact thing to Illinois, too. They just didn't end up with as many points. 2 fewer. So let's go to L.A. Fred.
Hey, Rant Troy. This is L.A. Fred calling. Oh, it was a tough loss for the Trojans on Saturday. As I rewatched some of the game tonight, I couldn't help but feel that USC was lucky in the first place to even be in this damn game. If it weren't for the 2 Illinois fumbles at the goal line, they could have easily hung 50 on us, and it was a total blowout. which got me thinking. I still can't shake the fact how Indiana opened up a can of whoop-ass on this same Illinois team just last week, 63-10. I know each game is different. It's its own animal. And we all knew Illinois was going to show up much better this week than they did last week. But holy hell on a popsicle stick. I did not expect to see Illinois manhandle the USC defense like they did. To put some comparison on it, Indiana got 6 sacks, 12 tackles for loss, forced 9 punts, held Illinois to 160 yards total, and only 10 points. USC had 1 sack, which was courtesy of a corner blitz, 2 tackles for loss, no pressure on Altmaier the entire game, allowed more than 5 yards per rush, gave up over 500 total yards, forced 1 punt, and gave up 34 points, which easily could have been 50. USC's always been able to recruit the skill guys on offense, but what really set those teams apart, much like the Bamas, Georgias, Texas, Ohio States of today, are the NFL body and speed guys they have on defense. Have a good bye week. Beat the Wolverines. Fight on, everybody.
Thanks, Fred. It was a great call, as always. Not to push back, but like, I continue to go back to this thing that like, you know, USC doesn't have NFL bodies on defense. I think USC doesn't have enough NFL bodies on defense. I think that's totally fair. Certainly, in key positions like linebacker and you know, certainly up front. But most teams don't have NFL bodies. And we're not talking about USC's ability to, like, 2 weeks from now, we will be talking about USC's ability or lack thereof to beat Michigan. We will, in the future, be talking about USC's ability or lack thereof to beat Oregon and Notre Dame. But today we're talking about USC's inability to go toe-to-toe with Illinois. Illinois does not have NFL bodies on their team. Like, Indiana has some really good defensive players, but, like, their defensive players are players who have been developed from like low 3-star players. No more base talent than or base like NFL body level than what USC has.
That came with Signetti from JMU.
Yeah, that were James Madison recruits. So again, like for me, it's not that USC is lacking the pieces. It's USC is lacking the development and the coaching and the togetherness and the confidence of what an elite or what a confident, strong defense looks like. Right now, USC's defense to me is completely lacking in confidence. Certainly the secondary is. The secondary looks like they are running around with their heads cut off, which is a problem. But like the defensive line today, it looked like it was almost like they got demoralized from that first drive that Illinois, and credit to Illinois for thinking to themselves, let's just pound the rock and demoralize them. But like after that, it just looked like dudes didn't have it at any point. It was, and it was every combination of players. It wasn't just this player or that player or this player or that player. It was literally all of them. There was no combination that worked at any point in this game of that front seven. So I don't know.
Yeah,
like to me, it feels like this team is playing well below its talent level.
No, I agree. I think both things can be true here. And to give some credit to Fred here, we did abridge his call a little bit based on time. But like he was talking about like, you know, watching Penn State and Oregon and like not seeing those type of like first round kind of draft picks on SC's roster on defense. And like he made the point of like SC used to have those guys.
Yes.
In the Pete Carroll era. And like those are the guys that I think people miss. And I think that, yes, you're right. Like absolutely, SC needs to be performing better with the talent they have. SC has enough talent to win a hell of a lot of games with good defense. They have not, you know, gone through with that. The issue there is of course that like compared to the offense where you've had great individual talents who can kind of, you know, mask some issues on offense. You've seen very few of those type of players on defense at SC of late. And I think people would take that more than anything else at some point, right? Like you sort of like the He-Man efforts. At the same time, like I think Eric Gentry's trying to do that.
I was going to say Eric Gentry's trying to. The problem defensively, no, I agree. I think that on offense, if you have a really good quarterback and a really good wide receiver, like you can cover up a lot of sins just from those two players of an 11. Now, you can't win at a really high level without a good offensive line and without togetherness on offense, but you can sort of patch things together and find a way to score points with just a quarterback and a receiver, that you just make it work if you're good enough. Defensively, like, I think that
it's a little harder.
It's really hard. And I think maybe the one exception to that is, like, if you have a truly unstoppable pass rusher, then yes, I think that makes life so much easier. And maybe that's the issue for Danton Lynn right now, that he doesn't have his what's it called?
Leatu Latu?
Yeah, Leatu Latu.
Yeah.
And that just simply not having a Leatu Latu is the downfall of his defense. But by and large, defensively, you need 11 guys to all be doing their job and all be working together and all be sort of like singing from the same hymn book, and their levels have to be closer together, I think, than just, you can have the best cornerback in the history of the game and you can still get absolutely torched on defense because they just throw away from that cornerback. You could have the best linebacker in the history of the game and you can be totally taken out of the game because they'll just, go away from you. You can't cover the whole field with one guy. So, yeah, I mean, we saw USC has had guys like Leonard Williams and Sua Cravens and Chenna Nwosu and Talanoa Hufanga and all sorts of really good defensive players, and still fielded some pretty bad defenses. So
yes, but Leonard Williams was the only one of those guys who went in the top end of the first round. You know what I mean?
I think we could all argue that Talanoa should have, but that's fine.
Yeah, but but I think he does have Leatu Latu. His name is Eric Gentry. Like, production-wise, making negative plays, very similar in producing at the same rate. But Eric Gentry...
Different kind of star, though. Different
kind of star. And Eric Gentry's impact in this game was strictly producing an extremely timely and very valuable fumble.
Yeah.
But, other than that, you needed more out of him. You needed more out of everybody else. Yeah.
And when USC got a run stop, which is to say a run that didn't go more than 3 yards, Gentry was usually at the front of the line in that tackle. So, he is, I think, when Kamari Ramsey is not on the field, it is not even a question that he is USC's best player by a mile.
Yes.
But it feels like too often USC's best players by a mile or USC's best players by a mile because they simply are and not because they've been coached to be.
Right. Yes. I think and when I talk about like relying on He-Man efforts, like, it's not that you want to rely on the He-Man efforts. It's more so like you want to have elite talents that just are. That don't have to be the He-Man because they just are, right?
Yeah.
They just are. Let's go to a voicemail from Trevor. This is the last voicemail. We got this a week ago. It is a very good call. Pre-Illinois, but it was such a good call that I wanted to get to it. So take that into account.
Hey, Michael, Alicia, Trevor here. Just wanted to call in and weigh in on this swirling controversy. Reign of Troy podcast 2 negative. Alicia de Artola, target number 1 for the Pumpers. Look, I don't think you're being too negative, Alicia. I think you're a fan. I think you've been hurt. I think you've put your walls up. You will not get sucked in. You will not be hurt again. But, I do have to say, Alicia, didn't you become of age as a USC fan during the Pete Carroll years? I mean, this is funny. I came of age during the 1990s. I'm talking Larry Smith. I'm talking John Robinson II. I'm talking Paul Hackett. Michael, my dad and I also sat in Section 12 over the tunnel, row 48 to be exact. I sat there in the 90s. I watched all those games. That was my introduction to USC football. So hearing Alicia moan and groan about the 4-0 Trojans with the best offense in the country, 3 years removed from the Heisman Trophy, I feel a little like Bane. You think darkness is your friend, Alicia? You merely adopted the dark. I was born in it. I didn't experience a win over UCLA until I was a grown man. So I've been to the deepest, darkest pits of hell of Trojan fandom. That's where I come from. So these problems, please. We're 4-0. We got the best offense in the country. Yeah, there's some real issues on defense. These coverage busts are ridiculous. The corner play, concerning. But, I think we have some good coaches on that side of the ball. I think they're going to find the right combinations. They're going to improve it. But if I can give you any hope at all, Alicia, if I can break down that wall just a little bit, number 14 has opened everything up for this team, I believe. Look, we all love Miller. We all rooted like crazy for Miller. He just wasn't the right fit. Defenses didn't have to respect him in the run game, so they're crashing down. They're swallowing up the backs, and that's leading to us having to go to the drop back passing game, sling it all over the yard, and we're trying to salt away games on the road with Miller Moss throwing the ball every play. So what happens? We throw it to the other team, we lose on a late kick or a late touchdown or whatever. It's not happening this year. We can run the ball. Jaden's opened it up. We got the play action game. The pass rush is going to get home when other teams are chasing. So I think we're going to be okay. I think we're going to be better. But if we're not, hell, I've already been to hell. So what's another trip? All right, guys, buck up and fight on.
Thanks for the call, Trevor. One of my all-time favorite calls.
That is...
It was a great call.
Such a great call.
And so relatable. By the way, section 12, row 59. So he's row 58. That's very close. I have talked about this plenty. I have the same thing. Your intro to USC football was the Pete Carroll era. I have 10 years on you in that case.
Mm-hmm.
When SC beat UCLA in 1999, 17-7 at the Coliseum, there not only was it a field rush, there were literally families taking family photos on the field. Like, I saw this with my own eyes. Like, it was so... I'm telling you, like, I was so elated when I was a kid in 98 when they got bowl eligible. Like, that was such a cool... Oh, my God, bowl eligible? Like, you know what I mean? Like, yes. So I think that, like, I think there is, like, this pessimistic view that... Maybe not pessimistic, but, like, oh, like, SC is not the dominant program that maybe that you have in your mind, of the sense of, like, because I saw SC become that rather than just be that from the beginning. And so, like, that's a little bit, it just changes perspectives a little bit. Like, there's time before and after Pete Carroll for me. And, like, you talked about your fandom, it's not the same way, right? When I was a kid, I would get a program every single game, and I would read about SC history in the program because I was that guy, and I'd go and look at all the stats from Marcus Allen and everything, and all those pictures. And I know that part of it's just because they were pictures in a program and it probably was just black and white in general, but, like, you're looking at black and white pictures. Yes, I read about Brad Buddy winning the 1979 Outland Trophy, but, like, that felt so foreign to me that, like, that wasn't real. You know what I mean?
Which is funny because in 1999, the 79 Outland Trophy, that's as far away from you at that time as we are from, Ray Mauluga winning the Gursky or whatever it was that he won.
It's crazy to think about those kind of things. Yeah. My brain is perpetually in the year 2000 where I think 1990 was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those kind of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, to go back to Trevor's thing, he mentioned that losing at a kick at the end. Well, maybe bad timing on that one,
Yeah.
but I think that, like, everyone's going to have a different perspective on everything. I don't think that you were too negative before. It's always one of those things too of, like, people get mad at us for being too negative and also for being too positive.
Yeah, we sort of thread the needle there, but
Yeah.
no, I Trevor had me laughing the whole time because I am a Pete Carroll baby. I am a product of the Pete Carroll era, and my perception of what USC should be is certainly informed by the heights of the Pete Carroll era. So I know what USC can be.
Yeah.
And realistically, I mean, I acknowledge this, the low, and I've been arguing this too, like, USC fans don't realize what low is. At least not like the way that you know what low is.
Yeah.
The my generation of USC fans and everyone who's come after, like, think that 4-8 is the worst that it gets in 2021. Like,
I mean, that was pretty low.
I mean, it was pretty low, but it was one season of low. Like, USC has had singular seasons of like, this isn't fun, where like you look at teams like Nebraska and you think like, it can be much worse.
But this is the
but the like my broader point is more than just like, I think that I do funnel my expectations through the expectations of greatness. And I think Trevor is correct that I'm traumatized. I've said this on the show before, like, Maryland broke me. I don't know if like, I'm not joking when I say that. Like, Maryland broke me as a fan of USC, in terms of like, my ability to put any trust in this program was shattered when USC lost to Maryland, because everything else narratively was on track with what I believed to be the truth. And then Maryland happened and my reality blinked out of existence, so yes, I am traumatized, and yes, I am afraid of putting any trust and faith in this team. And, that's the side effect of being hurt, for sure. But I also, I don't know. I try not to be overboard.
We got a comment, I think it was on YouTube. I don't remember who said this, so apologies. But it was about like, part of the issue is that when SC is a blue blood, but they're not playing like a blue blood. And I think it's hard when you compare it because you're right, things could be way worse. But also, when you are a program like at USC, like that's not fathomable, because like having a season like what UCLA is having is so incomprehensible that that's not an actual possibility, right? Yeah. And then you look at the fact of like, so in this comment, it was like the top 5 programs in college football history, and I didn't necessarily agree with the top 5, but I think the top 5 that it said was Ohio State, Alabama, I think it said Michigan, Notre Dame, and SC, and that like all of those have had recent success, and all of them are at their peak of their powers relatively to, they're all, top 5 programs in terms of like where they are as programs right now. And SC is the only one that's not, keeping pace. And I think that, yes, I think that's the issue, right? It's like, you look at the AP poll and all those teams are ranked. Notre Dame is the one that hasn't won a national championship in almost 40 years. Mm-hmm. But they just went to a national championship game last year. They went to a national championship game in 2012. They've had multiple undefeated seasons. SC hasn't done that, right? Of late. Michigan won a national championship 2 years ago. SC hasn't done that. So, like, yes, things could be worse. They could be like Nebraska. But also, there's no reason why they shouldn't be like Michigan and Notre Dame, teams that have, not been perfect the last 20 years, but absolutely have more to show for it than SC has.
Well, I don't know, though, because Michigan and Notre Dame have both had rough stretches. I think that Michigan fans would tell you that. So has SC. Yeah, that's my point, is that all of these programs have had rough stretches. I think Alabama's the outlier, because very, very, very few programs sustain success. Yeah, Oklahoma, I guess. Maybe like Oklahoma is like Alabama light in that they had sustained success without the national titles. Mm-hmm. But like, I think teams do go through ups and downs, and teams are constantly searching for the right coach. Like Alabama went through a bunch of coaches before they found the right coach. And USC has been doing that and struggling with it. And I think what I guess is frustrating is that you look around to teams like Notre Dame's sustained success is partly because they've landed on two, for all his faults, Brian Kelly was still a really good coach. Marcus Freeman has sort of had the baton passed without much issue. Like we were talking in our group chat about how, like, why is it that Oregon always seems to hire the right coach? Like no matter what coach they find, like they always hire somebody who's capable of winning, and then USC doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the frustration, is that USC has just whiffed so many times now. And yeah, I think what's especially demoralizing right now for me.
Yeah.
I can't even be angry. Like, I was thinking about that with the CarCast and everything like that. Like, I know that one of the draws of the CarCast is when I get really angry. And I'm finding it hard to summon anger, because it feels like that anger will be like just screaming into a void that will have no answer back, because I can rant and rave and rail against Lincoln Riley all I want. He's still going to be USC's head coach in a year.
Yeah.
Probably in 2. So it's, I don't know. It's just a particularly demoralizing time.
Yeah. All right. Couple more things. We do have a couple more comments in the chat. We're going to get to that in a minute. Email from WTM Vegas. I swear, in all caps, I swear, I hate hypotheticals. I'm firmly a be where your feet are guy. But USC fans are frothing at the mouth, and what if the goddamn Irish dance a jig on Lincoln Riley's peanut head in South Bend? Would that be enough to end this experiment? Since Notre Dame started 0-2, that they all have to go. They have to go all Ohio State 2014 on their remaining opponents. Plus, could this be the last time that the two teams play in South Bend for the foreseeable future? And Chad Bowden ran his mouth so much in the offseason, calling USC his dream job and Riley the best recruiter he's been around, among other gushy superlatives. Would it take an embarrassing loss in that game or falling apart of the nation's number 1 class to get USC's money and interest to write those checks? Again, I wasn't anticipating thinking about this, but the vitriol on social media, to me, has now reached Clayton era.
Clay Helton.
What did I say?
Clayton.
I can't read. Clay Helton era proportions. By the way, my vote, not that I have one, is that Lincoln switched his second quarter and fourth quarter goal line calls. I mean, I'm just a guy in sweatpants sitting on a sofa who thinks, let's play quickly when you got only 19 seconds. But then let's use that running play and that long-ass rollout for the late fourth quarter possession when you want to score and to take some time off the clock. But I mean, what do I know? WTM in Las Vegas. At least I don't think there's any world in which Lincoln were to get fired, even if they got Jigglebag in South Bend, right?
I'm sorry, USC fans. Like, this is a tough pill to swallow. I don't see any world where Lincoln Riley gets fired this year. Unless it's fired for cause.
It would have to be like a 4-8 type thing. Like you lose every game the rest of the way kind of situation.
Okay,
especially because
if USC,
he's already gotten the liberty to change out his defensive staff, right?
Yes.
He's exhausted that lifeline.
Okay, the reality where Lincoln Riley loses his job is USC gets jiggle-bagged by Michigan, Notre Dame, and Nebraska, and then loses to Northwestern at home. If that happens, then I don't know. I don't know, but I just don't see that happening, and I think that I just don't think it's realistic. I do not think it's realistic. USC doesn't have the oil money that Texas A&M did, but I don't know. If I were USC, I would look at Texas A&M and what that coaching change has done for them and consider. But no, and especially not in this economy. Like, no, I don't see that happening. Yeah. And unfortunately, here's pessimistic, Alicia, for you. Mm-hmm. Let's say you do that. Who are you hiring?
Well, I mean,
you're not paying someone another $10 million a year to go get someone. So you're
this is where I worry about like the whole. I think you have a lot of people that say, "Oh, don't spend that much money because it's a waste of money on a coach," but you have to because that's the going rate. That's what you need to pay a coach. Those are like the parameters for going out and getting a big name. It just is. If you want to play the game, you have to be willing to cash those checks. Like that's what you have to do. But, I think that it is worries. Like Lincoln Riley was the best USC hire on paper in 100 years. Is SC going to make another comparable hire in terms of resume and all that stuff? Again, the odds are no, because there's not many of those guys available.
You know what I do? You know what my strategy
But
is?
that doesn't mean that they can't be more successful, because like we've seen with hiring a coach and tenure are completely different things. I've been saying this for literally a decade on this podcast. When you hire judge a coach by the hiring and judge a coach by the tenure. Chip Kelly, UCLA, great hire. Awful tenure.
Mm-hmm.
Lincoln Riley, great hire. The tenure hasn't been good, right? That's how it goes
but
sometimes,
then
unfortunately.
Then UCLA hired Deshaun Foster, and that was a terrible hire too.
Yeah,
like,
and you can't overcorrect. Because I know people are like, well, you have to get a defensive coach. Ideally, yes. You need to go out and get a Dan Lanning. You need to go out and get a Marcus Freeman. You need to go out and get a Kirby Smart.
But Dan Lanning and Marcus Freeman are exactly what I would say is that after paying, let's say USC does pay the buyout right now, which again, they're not going to do. But let's just say, if USC pays the buyout, they only have one option, and that one option is to go hire a coordinator, to go hire a Marcus Freeman, to go hire a Dan Lanning, and hope that you get the same results.
Lanning, Freeman, and Smart were coordinators before, and people would be upset to go get a coordinator.
You can only hire those guys because you can get them much cheaper than hiring an established head coach.
Yes.
And you're giving them the opportunity.
They have the highest upside.
And then if the upside works out, it's great. And if not, you can fire them after 3 years instead of this 10-year contract USC is now stuck with. So, that's the way to do it. But who is that guy? Who is the next Dan Lanning? Hell if I know.
Yeah. Well, because for every Dan Lanning, there's a
million who
Jeremy
don't work
Pruitt,
out. Yes.
right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kenny says coaching hires is a crapshoot. Yes. I don't think people realize that a successful coach is so rare. I would love someone to do the math, because I'm willing to say that 1 in 10 hires in America pan out.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of people who just get fired or they leave without accomplishing anything, it is so freaking rare, which makes it all the more frustrating that Oregon has had 2 good ones in a row, one of them get poached and the other one, still there. Yes. It's SC's due is due to have one work in their favor.
But here's the funny thing. Brian in the chat says, Ole Miss is the top SEC team as we speak. Kiffin deserves some props, and yes, I never thought I would say that. Yes, Lane Kiffin deserves some props. Mm-hmm. Also, USC fans would have wanted to run Lane Kiffin out of town if you transposed his Ole Miss resume into USC. If he did what he's doing at Ole Miss, USC fans would still be very unsatisfied with his tenure.
Yeah,
I mean, it's different.
The only thing that's going to make people happy is winning games, because people were very happy, over the moon about getting Lincoln Riley, and rightfully so, because again, best hire USC has had in 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
Has it panned out that way? No. But I think because of that, I think the next hire will have so much skepticism, because even if you do go out and hire, who's the current Lincoln Riley? Is it Marcus Freeman? You know what I mean? Whoever it is, I think there will still be pessimism, because but we've seen this before or whatever. Mm-hmm. And the only thing that's going to cure things is winning. If you win, nobody cares about anything else. And rightfully so, because that's how it works. People just want to win. If you win, Pete Carroll won, so nobody cared that he was the 4th option and a has-been NFL coach that was a journeyman that had no business being the head coach of a blue blood program. You know what I mean? He won, so it didn't matter.
John McKay won, and so nobody cared that he was an offense-minded head coach.
Yes.
He was an offensive coordinator.
Same with Robinson. Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's USC should go get a defense-minded head coach. No, USC just needs to get a better, a winning head coach.
Ideally, yes. I think a defensive-minded head coach would be great. Absolutely. I agree. I think it's easier to find a good OC than it is to find a good DC.
That's fair. Yeah.
To me, that's the argument to get a defensive coach versus having a defensive coach for the sake of one.
Yeah.
But even still, yeah. Just win games. Win games, people will be happy. It's just annoying because that's not a satisfying answer for anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, we got a comment. Where was I? Got to scroll up here
from Cameron.
No, one before that. I want to get Cameron one. It's not SC football related, so I don't want to save that for the end. But there was one. Where was it? Somebody asked this. It was about. Here it goes from Hugo. Have you heard that quite a few players played with food poisoning against Illinois? Everything that we have heard is that there's only confirmation that there's one guy who had food poisoning in Kamari Ramsey. If Lincoln Riley goes out and talks about it, that's different. I think he will maybe mention that this week if he gets asked about it or whatever. Again, take that for what it's worth. But that is the only thing that we have definitively heard is the one guy in Kamari Ramsey. I am of the mindset that if there truly was a stomach bug that wiped through the entire team, I think Lincoln Riley plays that card in the post-game press conference. He doesn't wait 4 days to have that trickle out.
Well, I think especially having lost on a last-second field goal, you can go oh man, I'm proud of these guys for fighting, even though they were all, worse for wear. So yeah, I'm with you. If honestly, it's the best case scenario if that's true. If it's true and everybody on defense was sick, then thank God. Thank God, because then that's an explanation that explains why this defensive performance was that bad.
Yeah.
But that's, we know that Kamari Ramsey missed the game because he was sick with food poisoning. Other than that, it's all been rumor and speculation that others had it, maybe one or two, but I think that there is, we need more confirmation to say for sure that is the explanation.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. All right, last thing. This is not SC related. It's Big Brother related. Comment from Cameron in Frisco, Texas. Did Alicia watch the finale of Big Brother? Was this a disappointing season like what I think it was? ?
Cameron, you might be shocked to learn that the finale of Big Brother was the consequence of transference. Because I couldn't understand how it was possible that USC and Liverpool could both lose dramatic, heartbreaking games where they both played terribly, and Chelsea, all on the same day. There had to be something else that had, something had to befall, well, not befall, something had to be gifted to something else in my life in order to explain the horror of what Saturday was. And Sunday had it, because the person I wanted to win Big Brother won Big Brother. And the person that I didn't want to win Big Brother didn't win Big Brother. So was it a disappointing season? Yes. I don't know. I guess it depends on what counts as a good season. I think that was it a disappointing season in that the players in the house, by and large, were had the collective strategic brains of a mouse. Yeah, it was disappointing in that sense. Was it disappointing in that there was weird, crazy interpersonal drama that kept things kind of interesting throughout the season? In that sense, no, I don't think it was a disappointing season. But you kind of have to be paying attention to the feeds for that to be true. If I was only watching the show, then I would say this was a disappointing season. Following the feeds, there was plenty to be entertained by, even if it was, pull out your hair and question whether or not these people know that they're actually playing a game with strategy. Mm-hmm. So in that sense, it's split. But I was Team Ashley, and I'm very happy that Ashley won.
This was a season with a lot of high peak moments. Riley getting ousted the way that he did. The finale was great.
I celebrated Riley getting voted out like a touchdown.
Wait, hold on.
Riley evicted. Touchdown Trojans.
Yeah.
Actually, if people want to know, I got the idea for doing watch-alongs during the game by watching along with my favorite Big Brother podcaster while he watches the show. Like, that's literally where the watch-along idea came from, because that's so much fun. Well,
they say imitation the best form of flattery and whatever, and it's like, yes, 100%. At the same time, like, I think that when you are doing anything in a creative field, I think you take inspiration from others and you try to make it your own. And I think we've done that in a lot of ways, right? Like, the Rant Line was because the very first podcast I ever listened to back in like 2007 was a Cubs podcast called Bricks and Ivy Radio, and they had a rant line that you could call into, and I loved it, and I would call into it. That's where we got the idea for the Rant Line. It became a montage that was sort of like the Solid Verbal, which not trying to be like the Solid Verbal, but it was a montage solely because like SC lost to Stanford in 2015, and we suddenly had like 55 calls, and the only way that we could get all the calls in was to cut it up into a montage. We're doing the Roto meter in part because like one of the things that we like about Big Brother content that they do over at Rob Has a Podcast is like they do a weekly stock watch where they, Taryn Armstrong will put out a link, and it's like, click on this link. It's a Google form, and vote on all these questions about the season so far, how this person did, how that person did, rating people on a 1 to 10 scale or whatever. And then you can sort of track that as the season goes on. And it's a very interesting thing to be able to do that. And the Roto meter helps because like we can do the same thing now with the Roto meter, where like we can just share out a Google form and like look at a 1 to 10 scale and how people are thinking the vibes are about USC or whatever, right? Like all of this stuff, like you hear what other podcasts are doing that you like, and you're like, we should do something like that. How do we make it for us? How do we make it ours? You know what I mean? I think that's what your watch along sort of has come from.
Yeah.
A watch along is not a new thing. Like, it's not an original.
No.
Taryn didn't invent the watch along.
No, but like I enjoy the watch along so much, I thought, hey, maybe other people would enjoy a watch along as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's being informed. Okay, Michael, I'm gonna have to tell us to wrap up this show because Tyreek Hill just had his knee bent the wrong way, and my day job calls.
Ooh. Okay. All right. We'll be back next Monday. We're taking the week off. There's no game to preview on Wednesday, so it's a bye week. There's nothing to preview. And there's obviously no game on Saturday, so there's no CarCast. So we'll be back next Monday. Next Monday. Next Monday we're going to have a sort of a stock watch of sorts. How SC is through the first 5 games, sort of like a half season kind of litmus test.
What if we did put out a survey for the listeners to Roto meter each like unit or like break it up into segments of something?
I like that.
Yeah.
We will do that and then eventually put it in the show notes here. So if you're listening to this live, come back in a day or so and click that link. If you're listening to this on like a Tuesday, maybe the link will be in there. We'll put together a whole thing and then we'll discuss that with you guys next week. So Monday we'll be back. Until then, have a great week. Have a great bye week. Go Cubs. Beat the Padres. And we'll see you guys then. See ya.
See ya.
See ya.